His mom is Leslie Mocker, Stu Mocker's sister.
Who's Stu Mocker? Oh my god.
He's Billy Loomis's accomplice.
A very popular Scream 7 theory is that Stu Mocker's sister Leslie is going to be our Ghostface this time around. She's a character we only just found out about in Scream 2022, whose son Vince was the first to die. With her son now being dead and also being related to a previous killer, you can see how she'd be an obvious choice. Many fans have pushed back on the idea, however, because it feels a little too reminiscent of what we've already gotten in this franchise from previous reveals. You can argue that it's basically the same thing as Nancy Loomis, Billy's mother, in Scream 2, and also very similar to the reveal in Scream 6, where it was literally the family of the previous killer. Do we really need another family-oriented motive in the Scream franchise? Is there still something new to say there? Many fans, including myself, don't want to see Scream become this repetitive series that ends up eating its own tail, but there is undoubtedly some sort of familial connection stemming to the original flick here once again. Scream 7 sees the return of Matthew Lillard, Scott Foley, and David Arquette, all three who play characters that have some sort of connection to Maureen Prescott's murder, the thing that started this all in the first place. With references already being made to Scream 2022, also with the inclusion of the Meeks Martin twins here in the cast, as well as the character of Mark Evans, originally being played by Mark Kincaid actor Patrick Dempsey, I think the killer could certainly stem from that throwaway line in the fifth film that introduced us to more Mocker family members. In today's video, let's talk about a brand new theory that's been thrown my way regarding Stu Mocker's sister, and how it could show us a whole new side to the character 30 years later. Now let's talk a little bit about it. Hey everybody, I'm Killjoy Jake, and instead of having friends, I have horror movies. If you're excited for Scream 7 just like me, make sure to like this video and subscribe for more updates and theories just like this one. Also, the best way to support the page is by becoming a channel member or Patreon supporter, where you'll get an extra review video each week. Check out my review of Brian Bertino's Vicious this weekend. A big collective thank you to all of my patrons and supporters. Now let's get into this theory. So I want to thank Snoopy over on Twitter for pointing this theory out to me, which comes from NoRip256 over on Reddit. Like I said earlier, I think it's a really interesting direction to take the whole Stu sister is the killer thing, so let's break it down. The theory starts off with, in the film, it's revealed that Stu was adopted, and his real name, the name he was born with, isn't revealed until well into Act 2. The twist connects directly to a new setting, the psychiatric hospital where both Gail and Sydney conduct a deep investigation, specifically into the now abandoned children's ward. This is where Stu actually grew up, and where the next Ghostface killer's origins begin to take shape. First of all, if Stu Mocker had a sister the entire time, why was she not involved with the first film, and why has she not been mentioned throughout the entirety of this franchise up until the fifth film? You're telling me Sidney Prescott didn't know Stu Mocker's sister? That was somebody that was in her friend group. There's no way she wouldn't have known about her unless it was some sort of specific situation like this. I also like the idea that we're doing a little more of a deep dive into Stu Mocker's personal life. He had always had problems since he was a very young kid, which led to him going crazy later on in life. I want to talk more about how Scream 7 could remind us of who the character of Stu Mocker was a little later on though. Continuing here, the killer is a woman named Jessica, played by Anna Camp, though this is an alias. What's eventually revealed is that Jessica is Stu's biological sister. She was never adopted. She remained inside the hospital long after Stu was taken out. Again, this totally works for me if Jessica was someone who was just hanging out at the party during Scream 96. Why are we just now talking about her? So again, lots of great stuff here, and I love the idea of talking more about Stu's upbringing. Jessica isn't some obsessed fan of Ghostface. She's not paying tribute. She doesn't even want revenge for Stu's death. Her motive is colder, more personal. She wants to be in his shoes, to finish what he started. In her mind, Stu didn't complete the story. He was the goofy one, the sidekick, the clown. He was made a joke of it all. Jessica sees herself as the real deal, the true Ghostface, the one with purpose, control, and vision. Stepping into the mask isn't about theatrics for her, it's about identity. It's the closest she will ever get to the long-lost brother she never really knew. This is what I'm talking about when I say it's reminding us of who Stu Mocker was in that previous film. There's a lot of Stu theories that I have talked about on this page that don't work for me because there's just simply no groundwork laid there with them. Many people want to see the character of Stu Mocker become this mastermind who's been like plotting everything in the shadows, in the background, the entire franchise so far. He's been alive and also masterminding like literally every single Ghostface killing since the original. That is just just so not the character of Stu Macher. He is the sidekick. He's a clown, he's a joke, and his motive is peer pressure. He's not just saying that as a joke. I feel like there is a little bit of truth in when he's telling Sydney about what the hell's been going on this entire time over the phone. Stu is a character that we love to watch, probably my favorite Ghostface because of how complicated he truly is. But he is no mastermind. He's not in charge by any means. He's following orders that Billy is giving him. If any killer from the original run of films could be some sort of mastermind, it's either Roman or Billy, without a doubt. These are the characters who are the impetus of the Ghostface killings, not Stu Macher by a long shot. If Anna Camp is playing our killer in this new movie, and if she is Stu Macher's biological sister, this could serve as sort of a reminder of who that character is versus what the fans have made him out to be. That may not be horror commentary, but it's Scream franchise commentary, which seems to be where this franchise is heading in its next installment. Scream may no longer be about commentary on the horror genre, but rather commentary on what the fan base thinks of the franchise. Continuing here, Jessica is not acting alone. She is working with her alleged son, and they are both tied to Kyle, a patient she met while inside the psychiatric hospital. So a few things with that. If she is working with an alleged son, an alleged daughter, whatever, this does feel very similar once again to Scream 6. I'm not crazy about the familial motives that we have done so many times in this franchise, but maybe they can find a way to do this one differently. We'll talk more about that later. Also, who is this Kyle guy, you might ask? Well, that's supposedly the mental patient that Gale Weathers runs over about halfway through the film. In case you were wondering why there's just a random Kyle thrown into this madness, that's why. Will he be chugging energy drinks and screaming at the top of his lungs at the skate park? Well, we'll just have to find out. Kyle is a decoy, a silent figure who wears no mask but says almost nothing throughout the film. His presence helps misdirect both the characters and the audience, but it's Jessica who is always pulling the strings. Again, this all comes from a rumor that Gale Weathers is going to be running over some sort of mental patient in the film. Kyle is also said to have no dialogue throughout the entire flick, and the actor that supposedly plays him kinda looks a little like Stu Macher. That's another rumor about the film. The whole question of is Stu Macher alive or dead is once again going to be brought up here, just like how it was in the previous entry. It's not just about Sydney anymore, but Jessica's obsession uses Sydney as a reflection of her own distorted purpose. She casts Sydney as her final girl, not out of admiration, but because that's how it was supposed to end for Stu. This is her way of rewriting that ending, of placing herself inside the very narrative that left her behind. If you're gonna write in a random biological sister character to one of the previous killers, this is an interesting and meta way to do it. This is a character that essentially feels left out of the original story, literally, figuratively, whatever way you want to spin it. Here's a character that was created to literally elongate the original film's story. How would that character feel if she was real? Wouldn't she feel left out? She's like, why wasn't I in the original film? Why was I just created now? There's a way that you could execute that would be very Scream, would be very meta, that could work. Closing out this theory and continuing here, one of the most interesting details in the leak involves a location, Pine Grove Theater, where a screening of the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre is taking place. Why that film? Because Texas Chainsaw Massacre is famously about a family of psychos, a group that operates together as one terrifying unit. The parallel is clear. Scream 7 is drawing a line between the Sawyer family and this new Ghostface band. Both are families that kill in the name of something larger. The final act builds towards an explosive confrontation, a fractured mother-daughter unit squaring off against a killer mother and her son. So putting a pin in the whole family thing, I think we just have to get over the fact that Scream is always going to do family-oriented motives. As long as Kevin Williamson is involved, that's going to be apparent in this franchise. I really do believe that imagination can stretch an infinite amount of space. You can do a million different new things with every single idea, no matter how much that horse has been beat. With that being said, I think it would be way easier if Scream just left the family thing in the past and just did something else. That's something I've talked a million times over, however. When it comes to Scream 7, there's no doubt in my mind that the motive will be family-oriented and will be some sort of connection to the past. There's no way you're bringing back Stu Macher, Roman Bridger, and David Arquette, and we're not going to do something along those lines. If we're going to do that, if we're stuck in family revenge zone, I think we have to make an effort to make it stand out and not make it the exact same thing as Scream 6, and not the exact same thing as Scream 2 either. A really good example of this, Scream 4. Scream 4 is technically a family-oriented motive, but Jill has a different reason to be going about what she's doing. Is she Sidney Prescott's cousin? Yes. But is her motive, oh, I just want to kill Sidney for some sort of revenge? No. Jill may be related to Sidney, but the big thing when it comes to talking about who Jill Roberts is as a character is she wanted fame. She wanted the fame that Sidney Prescott had so that she could be in the limelight and adored by millions of fans. So would this twist feel a little soap opera-y? Yeah, sure, but is there some kind of other motive that we put out front that makes it a little more interesting? Leslie Mocker could be going after Sidney to finish what Stu started. This could also be meta commentary on how the fan base looks at Stu Mocker as a character, this mastermind killer that's gonna come back from out of the shadows and say he was responsible for literally everything that has happened since the events that took place in 1996. Like I said earlier, that's just not who Stu Mocker is. There's really no groundwork laid in that original film to do some sort of twist ending like that here in the new film. Could revealing the character of Stu Mocker's sister as the Ghostface Killer essentially restore order there with who Stu Mocker is as a character? I think that could be kind of interesting and also meta commentary on what the fan base looks at Stu Mocker as. I also think it's interesting that the Scream franchise may just start commenting on itself, because maybe there's no new general topic in horror to cover nowadays. I have pitched the idea a couple of times on this page that Scream 7 could start hitting on niche topics, but maybe not everyone can get into that. Maybe that's the fear there. There is a lot of things going on here in the space of horror in the modern day. So many little subgenres creeping up, becoming popular for a little bit, and then kind of disappearing again. If you're the writer of a Scream film, sure, you could hit on one of those small topics, but that may only relate to a small group of people. Could you, however, start commenting on the franchise itself, opposed to doing meta commentary on just one very small thing happening in horror? The horror genre is just in a different place than it was in the late 90s, where there would be like one big fad take over for a little while and then kind of die, and then something else would come up. For instance, the Scream-inspired slasher was a very big thing in the late 90s, early thousands. Then we move into like 2003, 2004, when Saw and Hostel are coming out, and these are the next big thing, like the gory, over-the-top torture movies. That's just not how horror is anymore. So many different weird little things are popular all at the same time now, it's hard to just pinpoint one thing or the other. Maybe it makes sense for Scream to evolve in a way that it's really only commenting on itself in its own unique little corner. Maybe that's the only way that it can evolve and grow. A lot of crazy thoughts and ideas here with the Scream franchise, but I want to hear what you guys think about this theory and also the future of this franchise. Can Scream hit on smaller niche topics, or will that not relate to everybody coming to see this film? Will that go over their heads? Is Scream in a box where it can only really comment on itself moving forward? Also, what do you think about Stu's sister becoming the killer in the new flick? Could that shed some sort of light on the character of Stu Mocker, teach us something we didn't know about him, and also maybe restore order with who this character ultimately is? Let me know down in the comments below. Thank you all for watching, please subscribe, and as always, don't forget to kill it out there, y'all.